Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Addicted to Success podcast and Addicted to Success TV. Now today I have my good friend Ben Kelly here, and you thought my Aussie accent was good.
Yeah, I've got to work on it. I've got to start speaking a little bit more proper, especially when I'm in America. My voice is extremely bogan or very thorough Australian sounding, so I definitely got to pronunciate my words a lot better than what I normally do. So
I love it, man. You've come a long way, right? And I can say that because it would have been about 2 years ago. Ben was making around $1,200 a week as a bricklayer, right?
Yep.
Not really happy with where he was at in his life at that point in time. And you look at him now, and he's nearly $500,000 a year, which is insane. But not only that, he's also leading over 15,000 people that are hungry, that are there to change their life and to live life on their own terms. So let's get into this, man. Let's find out how you got into this situation. 2 years from a bricklayer feeling down and out to where you are today, man. How did this all happen?
Yeah, well, I mean, you've been able to watch it unravel a fair bit. I dare say probably when you first met me, I was a very different person than what I am today. I think I remember having a conversation where we spoke about the first time we never actually spoke, but you just saw of me. You're like, oh, he seems pretty reserved. Maybe he's a bit arrogant. Maybe he's,
I told you, and I said to you, I thought that you had an ego or something. Oh,
Yeah.
I told you like 6 months later, you're like, really? Me?
Yeah, I just have one of those, resting faces that when I'm somber, I look like I'm pissed off or very arrogant. It's just, just one of those faces. So, but I'm glad you got, we get along, and you obviously.
Well, you didn't beat me up, so.
Well, no.
I took a chance with you.
So yeah, as you were saying, I was in construction as a bricklayer, so very, very different than obviously what I'm doing now. Yeah. The funny thing even about that was at that point in time, I wasn't really even capable of talking to another human being because my worth and self-value is so low. Being, that type of person to now being able to, you've seen speak in front of thousands of people is obviously a testament to the journey and the people around it, but it wasn't always the case. I was struggling heavily with my own self-worth. I grew up in a family full of women. I was the man of the family since about 6 years old. I always kind of felt like it was my duty as the man of the family to be the protector, the provider. And I remember as I was growing up I remember it, and I'm not hugely religious, but at a young age you want the best for your family, and if you're not big enough and old enough to be able to do that, you kind of want to try and have something from the abyss kind of take care of it. So I used to remember praying, every day, make sure my family has a long, loving, lasting, successful, fulfilling, happy life. And if someone had to take me, that's at a young age of 6 years old, that's what my mindset was, my mentality was. So when I did get older and I still had that mindset, I felt like I was failing dismally. So found myself in a lot of debt because I felt like I needed to, get my own mortgage, try and progress that way. But I was in a job that ultimately wasn't stable. There was things that were taken out of my element, like the weather, jobs seizing up, materials not being on time, bosses not paying you, all these kind of things, right? Yeah, it's you don't dictate what you're gaining. Yeah. I was working next to people who I was doing a lot more than, but getting paid the same amount, and I just wasn't really happy with that. I wasn't happy in that situation. I knew I wanted more. I just simply didn't really know how, right? And I just through that, because I felt like I was failing dismally, I fell into a pretty deep depression. Very detrimental thoughts on what my plans were as far as not so much of a future, if you want to put it that way.
So like suicide.
Yeah. I fell so deeply in the fact that I felt like I was letting my family down, and having a mortgage. The thing is that I wasn't in a good enough position financially to get a mortgage on my own accord. I had to get my mother, who raised 4 children, in this house that she owned, that she was paying off, and have that be put up against it as collateral. So working in a job that didn't have a lot of security, and having that against it, if I wasn't able to keep up with those repayments, she was obviously going to lose her house, and that would have been my fault. So I kind of saw, I started to feel like probably the best idea would to, you know, sort of accidentally make it look like an accident, me taking my own life, so they could benefit from life insurance and squash that debt. And that was that's how bad it got, because, you know, the things that I valued in life, I had a lack of, and that's where I thought my value was. I'd had a lack of it, and I was functioning from a place of ego, like I was attached to, you know, all these things, and because of the lack, it lowered my self-worth. So I felt like I was doing them more of a justice to kind of make up for my mistakes and make up for what I thought was doing the right thing, but obviously wasn't, through a lack of education. And you know, I just knew I wanted more. So and it's hard for a person in that situation where you, as a man especially, there's a lot of men out there that you know, suffer from depression. They suffer quietly. Mine had gotten so bad it was quite obvious, and I had a lot of people around me wanting to try and help me. And the last thing you want, as someone in that situation, is someone telling you that they want to help you. You don't. If the last thing you've got left is your pride, and to pretend like you're okay and not suffering, that's what I was trying to do. But I obviously wanted help. My sister Peter, who studied exercise and health science at UWA, obviously knew a lot about nutrition and exercise, and you know, getting people results, very scientifically wise, metabolism, all that kind of thing. And I had such a low value as far as my worth. I tried to gain that back in some small aspect as far as my physical results and sort of how I looked in the gym. So she knew that was a big aspect of my life that I enjoyed and I wanted results in, and she came to me with this this range and system of products, right? And for 6 months, I told her to basically piss off.
Skeptic, right? Big time skeptic.
It was, and it annoyed me that she thought that she knew better, and especially the one thing that I thought I had a good grasp on, she's telling me, no, I've got something better. So functioning from a place of ego again, I wanted to be right more than anything else, and I just didn't give her the time. Eventually we sat down, she sat me down, and she was working with professional athletes, you know, everyday people, right, getting great results, and I wanted to see it out in black and white. I wanted to see it as stats, facts, figures, science. And we sat down and she ran me through it, and it all made complete sense. I knew that's what was going to get me results, and that's basically, you know, how I got started. We didn't know at the time really that of the opportunity, the heights that it could take us, the potential of it. At the time, my sister was simply referring this onto people because she was getting great results. She didn't actually realise she was gaining financially from it, right? Yeah. And I spent about 14 months just being a product user on this system, getting great results, feeling good, more importantly. You know, eventually I caught the vision of what, you know, this opportunity was about and what it could do. Obviously, you know, it's a great product line, great systems. They work in really well. I had felt that, so I already had a belief in that. But what they did is they attached it to a network marketing framework, and to be able to provide me with a way out, you know. And I'd already fallen in love with the product, so that was a given, because I'd been on it for 14 months and not shared it, paying money every month for something that, you know, I didn't, you know, that I wasn't benefiting from financially, but I was just getting great results, right? Yeah. So caught the vision of what this opportunity could do, why it was why I was going to be able to benefit my family, why I was going to benefit those around me, and, you know, get me out of that situation where, you know, I hated what I did. I was filling my time doing stuff and doing it with people that I didn't necessarily get along with. We obviously had huge dreams of, you know, we hear it all the time, retiring, you know, your parent, your mum, and taking their you know, financial stresses away. So fortunately enough for myself and my sister, we've built ourselves up to a point where we've been able to do that for our mother. So
wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. So
congratulations.
That was our big why, and it happened a lot sooner than what we expected. Yep. So we just had a party for her here not long ago to celebrate her being able to, to be able to give her back the years that she spent raising us as kids, take all financial stress away from her and allow her to live out her years now how she really wants to. And we knew that was something that we wanted to do. We just didn't know how to until this was kind of planted in our way, and we acknowledged it for what it was. And it's proven to obviously have done what we expected of it to do, so for me it's been mostly about being able to do that for a family and create security where I had such a lack of it, and gained me a lot more choice, which I had very little of years ago.
We've got an abundance of choice right now, man, with
heaps of choice,
with your little empire right now, so that's awesome. So for those that are listening right now, if you haven't switched onto it yet, we're talking about a career in network marketing. Yep. Right? And I love this, man. I love this industry, right? It's funny because you get the people that are on one side of the fence that are like, oh, they're stuck in the 80s or the 70s when there was the pyramid scheme.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And then you get the new open-minded people that are a bit more optimistic and that are open to actually doing the research first before they open their mouths. So for you, being a bit of a skeptic of the products but then feeling it, you obviously built that belief and certainty. Why did you decide that you wanted to build this as a career? Apart from the opportunity to make that money, like what was it? Was it pain or pleasure? Was it desperation or inspiration at that point?
I'd like to be. It's probably a bit of both. I didn't kind of grasp opportunity until I sort of saw everyday people walking across stage sharing their stories about what they'd done, and they were just every day running, just from all different kind of styles of lifestyle, like
not that special, right?
No. And I sat there and I was like I can do this, because in that 14 months I worked heavily on myself. I did raise up my belief, and then all I did was took what I learned in that 14 months and adapted it. I did come from a place of desperation. A lot of people will wait until they hit rock bottom to then try and change their life, rather than trying to just not wait until that happens and go and just understand that they need to go and continue to progress, right? So I hit rock bottom, obviously. So I had spent 3 years learning to become a bricklayer that I didn't like doing, to earn not a great wage, not enough for myself and my family. So I was functioning from a place of desperation at the time, but it was also coupled with inspiration that I felt like I could do it, right?
Yeah.
So. No,
that's good, man. That's good. It's funny, most people that I speak to that in the industry, it's either one or the other, but it's good that you recognize that there was both, so that's really good. What do you feel is the biggest mistake that network marketers make? If you're getting in this industry for the first time, someone hears your story, they're inspired by it, they want to get into the industry, they want to give this a go. What would you advise them on to be wary of? Something that maybe you did when you first started, or even people in your team that you're leading right now that you see it's like the same old mistake over and over again.
It's one of the big ones is making yourself a brand of the company rather than branding yourself as a person, and being attracted to you and what you're doing rather as opposed to what it is you're doing, right? A lot of people will come in and they'll be very salesman-like. They want to sell a product, right? And emotionally wise, that's not. Obviously you hear it all the time. It's like people buy why you do something, not what you do it. And you hear the story about the hot dog vendor, right?
Heard that story.
Haven't you heard it?
Man, sure.
So, in New York, there's all these different hot dog vendors, right? Oh. One of them went on to create huge success, big restaurants, big franchises. What was the difference? It wasn't the hot dog, wasn't the product, it wasn't anything other than them as a person and their service and how they made people feel, right? Yeah. So for me, it's having people understand that people are they're gonna buy into you. They're gonna buy into you as a person, and making sure that you're always congruent with who you are, what you represent, what you're about, your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, and how you feel about things. Not being one thing and another, right? We always talk about being congruent, and some people will come to me and they'll go, how do I talk about this? I go, but talk about how you feel about it, right? I've got how I feel about it, and that's how I talk. I come from a place of just talking from passion and belief for what it is for me. Yeah. How do you feel about it? It's like, this is how I feel. Okay, then that's how you talk about it. That's you, right? That's you, that's your passion being, breathed into them. That's what people that's what people resonate with. That's what people will connect with you with, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, it's making sure that people in messages, when they're online, when they're offline, when they're living their life, that they're always, congruent. Yes. As far as them as a person. So there's not two things. That's the biggest thing with people, and why people won't come into their business is because they don't have trust for them. They don't have trust in them, and that's very hard to gain if you're not making sure that you're always congruent 100% of the time, because that opens up people's questioning of who you are. If they're being incongruent about that, what else are they not being congruent about? Yep. And I make sure, and I am extremely Australian, and for a long time there I didn't speak in front of a lot of people because I thought you had to be very prim and proper to talk in front of people, right? But then I got to the point where it's like, I'm just being me. Like, I want people to see me, and if they get nothing from me at being up here, it's the fact that this guy's just being himself. He's being super Australian, if you want to call that. He's not exactly the most well-spoken dude out there, but he's given us permission through his actions and how he's being congruent and being as truthful as he possibly can to allow me to own who I am. Yes. And just be that and have people be attracted to that.
There you go. Yeah, and you know what, man? If I could say it on camera, I've seen you on stage even like crying, right?
All the time.
You get up all the time. There you go. You owned it. A lot of guys, we're like, nearly reaching our 30s. A lot of guys at that stage still haven't kind of gotten past the ego, like you were talking about before, where they feel like it's a weakness to cry, to have, to show emotion. Whereas when you're up there and you're showing people that, like, look, I'm putting myself out on the line here. I'm putting like who I am here. You inspire others to want to be authentic and to be themselves as well. So you're doing the world a favor, man. You really are. And this is why your team is growing. This is why you've reached new heights with your business. And one thing I've noticed as well, because I've interviewed quite a few people in different network marketing companies, right? A lot of the leaders and our top income earners and successful people in the industry. And what you find is they're all different. They're not the same, man. They're not the same. The ones that are trying to be the same as their leader or somebody else's leader that they might find more of an interest in, they're not cutting it. They're not making it because they're not being themselves. And people can tell. People can really tell. They see through it.
Yep. I always try remember that my job is not, when I'm on stage and when I'm speaking in front of, my job is not to be a good public speaker, rather than what is my purpose for being up here? What kind of message do I want to send, right? I want people to understand that we all go through stuff, and it's okay to acknowledge that, right? It's strength to be able to go, you know what? I'm not okay. Because at the end of the day, you're not doing that because you want the people around you to not know you're suffering, but at the end of the day, if they're watching you suffer, they're not happy. So you acknowledging that you want help and you want more and you want to attend to that is going to make them happy, that they feel like you're, being strong in the fact that you're acknowledging that you really, really do want to help. So when I speak in front of people, and people ask me all the time, it's like, don't you get nervous speaking in front of people? Do you get worried when you're going up that you're going to... And I go, not in the slightest. There was a point in time where I did, but not anymore, because you can't go wrong when you're just being yourself. You can't fail. And all I try and do is I go there and try and be as imperfect and as what I am as I possibly can be. And that's going to say to people, you know what? Because I remember there was a point in time where I saw someone like that. And that was what gave me permission to know what, I don't have to be anytime I can be me. I don't have to be as well. I can be who I am, and go out and do that. And I want to be able to give people, be the example, and show them that, that's when they're on stage or when they're in front of people, just to own it. That'll allow them to feel more at ease with being around them, that they're not feeling like you're putting up a guard or there's something that you're hiding. I don't feel like there's anything that anyone doesn't know about me that they could say that I haven't expressed, And it's good to be able to have that, put yourself out to the point where everyone, knows where you stand,
100%. So what I see in the industry, and also from your story as well, is that network marketing is an industry where they heavily revolve around the idea of self-development. And this is why I'm such a big fan of it, is because you get a lot of the trainers that come through, a lot of people want to grow. So for you, what do you think has been the biggest takeaway in the self-development area of network marketing?
Well, it puts you into an environment where it almost demands that you grow. I mean, if we want to become successful, and we hear it all the time with, extremely successful business and economists, that they're all saying, if you want your starting point into entrepreneurship, network marketing is a good way, because you're going to learn the skills that are going to allow you to become successful, not only in that, but in anything you do in life, and to adapt to that. So with me and my success, I'm basically the outcome of my environment now. I'm around a lot of people that ooze wanting to grow and wanting to learn. That's rubbed off for me. That's become what I've wanted to take on. I've got a thirst for wanting to build up my value as far as what I know, to be able to pass on, to be able to help other people. For me, it's there's always a lot of certain types of personal development. For me, it was, I'd done a lot of work with mindset stuff and unblocking of the things that ultimately we put in our way And for me, I got to a point where I was in the business and I was earning good money, but I still wasn't as happy as what I thought it'd be. So if you had sat me back when I was starting off, and you said to me, Ben, you're going to be earning that kind of money in that point. If I was back then, I would have said I would be so happy. But then I got to that point and I wasn't. Yeah. Right? I still wasn't. So it was like, what was I lacking? So obviously I knew what I needed to have to become successful. I knew the traits, and I knew all the things that you needed to, we talk about becoming. If you want to be $1 million earner, what does that version of you look like that's earning that $1 million? And then you have to develop and become that person. But most of the time, I think it's learning how to unlearn all the things that society has taught you about yourself and unblock that to be able to get out of your own way, right? And that's because taking action is ultimately what pays. How do we get people to take more action? And typically it's an unblocking of the things that they've accrued, the things that they've taken on, the things that they've made their beliefs that don't allow them to take action. Yeah. They can become this person that has all these traits, right? But if they've still got things that are old habits, old thought processes, old beliefs, they're basically just getting in their own way. So how do we get people to unlearn? So we want people to learn, but then there's the skill of unlearning what doesn't serve us any purpose. Yeah. And for me, that comes from working heavily in spirituality and on my spirituality. That was the thing that was lacking, and I thought it was complete woo-woo crap, right, for a very long time.
But it was a piece of the puzzle, right, that was missing. It was that thing that helped you to reprogram that part that was maybe stuck, right? You're in that loop. Yeah.
I was like, what am I lacking? And I should be happy. I should be happy right now. And I was, but not completely. And I was like, well, I was just like, why am I going to continue to pursue and gain more of what I already have now when I should already be happy? So I just didn't get that, and I was questioning my purpose. I was questioning what I should do. I was like, ultimately, should I now move on to something else and do something? You know what I mean? Yeah. You know what I mean? So
it wasn't fulfilling for you, right? Essentially, that's what you're saying. Like, you didn't feel fulfilled, even though you had the money there. you had those emotions that were coming and going, but they were short-lived. You were looking for something more fulfilling.
It was because I was attached to so much, to a lot of things that were external, rather than looking at myself and changing myself up, and changing how I thought, changing my emotions, more importantly, how I'd perceive things, and basically work in those sorts of main areas to allow me to start to continue to push on out of service and out of love and out of dedication to helping people, and have that be my main focus and main fulfillment, right? Rather than making it anything that was external. Yep. So I wanted to try and learn to get to a point where I took away anything external to either be detrimental to me or beneficial to me, and have myself be in 100% of control, which I'm not saying I am, but work towards being at a point where I can take away external forces and still maintain a really high level of happiness. Because at the end of the day, I was relying so heavily on all that was external. I wasn't looking closely enough to myself for the happiness. And I like to think of it as, you know, if you had your sunnies on your head, your sunglasses on your head, they're right there. You're gonna be you're looking around the house everywhere for them, right? And you can't find them because we're looking for them out there. When all we need to do is lower our eyes and just realize it's right here, and then you just pull them down, and it's like, that's it. That's what I was doing, right? And as soon as I kind of just started to work really heavily on my you know, myself internally, spiritually wise, I started to gain a clearer view of where my happiness lied. And it allowed me to progress and know that where I was at was the right spot, whereas before I didn't.